Hello, everybody. This is Tom Eckert here. You're listening to my podcast, Numerology, a GPS for the soul. This is your place to learn about the true power of numerology and how to use it to bring out the best in yourself, understand your loved ones better, take wise decisions, and prepare for your future. In other words, how to live your life aligned with your true destiny. Take your time to educate yourself and share these podcasts with your friends and family so they too can enjoy the great benefits of numerology. Enjoy! Hello there, and welcome to all my listeners. Today is a special episode because we are going to analyze none other than the new president-elect, Donald Trump, who's going to be the 47th president of the United States. But before anything else, if you're new to my podcast, welcome. In my podcast, we discuss numerology as a path for inner transformation, spiritual growth, self-understanding. I personally attempt to make numerology grounded, accessible, and applicable for everyday life matters, so that you can use it in the most grounded way and apply numerology in order to live a more conscious, a more well-informed, a more balanced life that's aligned with your soul and your true purpose. Now, here are a few ways you can dive deeper into numerology should you wish to do so. First and foremost, you can book a numerology reading with me. In a reading, you can ask any question that is burning in your life and get precise answers tailored especially to you. You can read more about the types of readings that I offer and contact me through the link in the episode description to book your reading with me. If you wish to study numerology on a deeper level, or even pursue it as a side career or your main career, I invite you to check out my numerology study paths. The first is my self-study numerology course, where you can learn the fundamentals of numerology at your own pace in a very comprehensive way. You can do it on your tablet, on your mobile device, and or on your laptop. But if you want to go really deep, you can sign up to my complete path of certification from beginner to numerology expert and get certified one-on-one with me as a professional numerologist. To read more about both study paths, check out the links in the episode description. So first of all, my friends, I want to start by stating very clearly that this is in no way a political episode. I'm taking absolutely no political stance here, and I'm simply analyzing the chart of the newly elected US President Donald Trump. I love exploring charts of people, and it becomes especially interesting when a person sits in such an important position, such a central space, right? Occupies such a central stage, because then we can all get a deeper insight into the real person they are, and not only what they present in the media. Numerology gives us that sort of access. Being a politician, and especially a US president, is no easy job. Therefore, it makes it even more interesting to explore the tools, skills, and character of the person that occupies this position. Now, many core insights I will be sharing with you about the numbers today, and especially about the number combinations in general and specifically in Trump's chart, are inspired by my beloved numerology teacher, Sharon Ron from Israel, who is also the founder of the human body numerology method, the method I teach to my students worldwide. One important thing we must take into account when analyzing a numerology chart is that souls of varying levels of consciousness may occupy a very similar numerology chart. And I repeat that time and time again throughout my episodes. Why is that important? Because the level of consciousness of a soul will determine, for the most part, whether they will embody their numbers in a wise and mature way, or a way that is more immature and tending to the shadow side of the numbers. Now, the level of consciousness of the soul, however, is something that numerology cannot reveal, unfortunately. And that's why, as a numerologist, one should approach any chart with much caution and humbleness. So, in that attitude, and having said all of that, let's dive into Trump's numbers. So, from the get go, looking at Trump's chart at first glance, Donald Trump's life path number sticks out, a solid 22-4 master number. Looking at that, I immediately know that his soul came here in this incarnation to accomplish something big, to go big, to think big, to dare big, and potentially serve something bigger than himself. Ultimately, with the possibility of leaving behind some legacy to build something lasting for humanity. It's important to note that the life path is never a promise or a guarantee, though, that all these things I just said shall come to pass. Many factors come into play that can influence whether or not the life path will reach its full potential. One such thing is what I mentioned earlier, the level of consciousness of the soul, but also a person's rearing, surroundings, and to a high extent, the number combinations in the chart, which we'll get to later. Now, of course, I won't be able to encompass all of that in this episode, but it's certainly worth noting. Now, being a 22-4 life path makes Trump a more practical person, a down-to-earth person who very much speaks the language of action and manifestation, rather than only playing around with fanciful ideas. It's also about grounding inspiration that comes from a very deep place. After all, 22-4 is a master number, but one that channels inspiration and makes it come into life, makes it real. That's what I mean by manifestation. Now, it also gives him the ability to dream big. That's part of being a 22-4, but also part of having a master number in such a central location. But again, the strength of the 22-4 is really that ability to eventually manifest these big dreams. It also grants him the power of leadership and out-of-the-box thinking. There are many more things, of course, I could say about 22-4 being in such a central location, but for now, we'll keep it at that and we'll move on. So moving on, let's look at his soul urge number, where we see a 16-7. That is a karmic debt, number 7. His mind is sharp and cutting, able to analyze situations really well. He sees through people, he sees through situations, possibly somewhat an impatient listener due to the karmic debt effect. Now, in general, 7s are not great listeners because normally they think they know it all. They're very opinionated people, and very often, by the way, for a good reason, because they usually have a very strong mind, a deep mind. But nevertheless, sometimes not good listening is also a shadow, and that definitely gets amplified with the karmic debt 16-7. But all in all, it lends to a powerful and sharp mind, able to process complex information and have penetrating insight. This, of course, still does not take into account number combinations that will make things, far richer and more complex. But we're not there yet. But we're already seeing that both the 22-4 and the 7 allows him for like this out of the box thinking, deep thinking, a different way to approach things, and also that solid presence, that sort of sharpness, each one in their own way. On we go, and let's talk about Trump's expression number. And Donald Trump's expression number is a 14-5. Once again, a karmic debt number 5. So we're already seeing 2 karmic debts. Now, this tells me that he has natural street wisdom, which is so typical of number 5, and especially in the expression number, because it's right, it's where we act from. It's how we manifest what we have inside of us. So he has this natural street wisdom and the ability to find shortcuts and all kinds of interesting out of the box solutions to problems. He has the skill of using communication and networking to get things moving, right? He is someone who understands quickly the rules of the game and is able to adapt very quickly. This is really the superpower of the 5 being in such a major location. Now, the karmic debt side of things, however, lends to an excessive behavior and even reckless behavior. See, that's when we're sort of seeing the shadow of the 5 that's also exacerbated and amplified by it being a karmic debt. So we're seeing recklessness. That's what happens just in general with 5s, okay? 5s, even if you don't have a karmic debt and 5 is in such a central location, you will probably move at some point in your life into a form of reckless behavior. But again, if you have, the karmic debt, it's always going to be more pronounced and with a stronger edge, one can say. Now, the karmic debt 14-5 can be also irresponsible, undependable, erratic, and inconsistent. So we're already starting to see a very interesting blend of energies in Trump's chart. Practicality with that 22-4, right? That sort of like super solid presence, like a solid tree deep on the earth, high in the sky, 22-4, practicality and groundedness. We see the deep thinking, but also the impatience with that 16-7 in his solarge, and a combination of street wisdom with recklessness, with right, that 14-5 karmic debt in his expression number. Very fascinating dance that we're seeing here. Now, even though I'm mostly going to focus on Donald Trump's sacred triad, by the way, this is a term I use frequently, and it refers to the life path, the expression, and the solarge numbers, like the 3 strongest numbers in any person's chart. It's worth noting that his other 2 core numbers, the personality number and the birthday number, are also 7 and 14-5 respectively. So this tells us that the 7 energy is amplified in his chart, and that the 5 energy is amplified as well, but also its challenging karmic sides. So my friends, right, we're looking at 3 karmic debts out of 5 core numbers. That's very telling. But perhaps more about that later. So this means that the sharpness of the 7 and also its impatience will be stronger, and that the networking skills and street wisdom of the 5 will also be stronger alongside the karmic effects of recklessness and excessive behavior. So now that we laid the foundation of the core numbers, let's move deeper and explore how these numbers interact and what that reveals about Trump's character. And I'll start from the easier number combinations and slowly progress into the more complex ones. So, looking into Donald Trump's life path, and soul urge numbers. We see the 22-4 and the 16-7 coming together to form a serious thinker, a thorough person, someone who is able to base his knowledge and actions on real solid ground and information. Both numbers lend to a depth of character, an uncompromising temperament, and also a highly opinionated persona. They're not, you see like 4-7 or 22-4-7, because the 22, even though it's a 22, a 22-4, it will always also be just a 4. That's part of it being a master number. And by the way, if you're not familiar with master numbers and how they behave, there's an entire episode about master numbers. Definitely go and listen to it to understand the deeper function of these numbers. So the 4-7 are not a very emotional combination, but they are very pragmatic. They're very mindy. They're meticulous, and usually base their statements on grounded information. Okay, so again, I'm describing Donald Trump. I'm saying they, right? I'm talking about Donald Trump, right? So opinionated person, uncompromising temperament, not very emotional, a pragmatic person, mindy, meticulous in many ways. Okay, so all of these things are a description of this person. They are not easily influenced by external voices and are hard to bend or move from their ways of thinking and acting. It's not easy to convince a 22-4, 16-7 personality, or number combination in such a central location to really change their ways. Okay. It is interesting, by the way, to note that this combo appears twice in his chart, right? Both between Soul Urge and Life Path, and also his personality and life path numbers. So we see this combination twice, and this strengthens and amplifies all the significations I just mentioned about this number combo. It sort of amplifies it, and doubles it in a sense. Now, on a completely different note, before I sort of keep diving deeper into even more complex number combinations, it is interesting, to me at least, that he won the elections in a 1 personal year during a 3 personal month. I mean, there's just no better year than the 1 personal year to come out victorious. I'm saying this because it's just so impressive to see how numerology is so well timed, right, with just what happens in our life, or our life with the numbers. It's just beautiful to see how this plays out. And then the 1-3 combo, right? The 3 personal month within that 1 personal year. The 1-3 combo shows that it was really during a time where he was anyhow compelled by life to come out and fully express himself and his ideas and really become visible on the front stage. So in a way, life supported that. And if you ask me, was that some kind of forecast that I knew beforehand? Could have I told he will win or lose? No, never completely. You can never do that completely. He is in 2-cycle 8 pinnacle, and in a sense, I would say it does fit for a position, taking on a position of management, leadership, where you oversee, serious decision-making processes. But again, he's in that cycle. He was also in that cycle and pinnacle in his previous presidency. So um, it fits. It works. So next we're moving, into a much more complex number combination, that has to do with the life path and the expression numbers. But before I keep talking any further, if you are enjoying this podcast and you want to keep learning more in-depth, grounded, high-quality numerology, make sure to click the follow or subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell on the platform you're listening from and become part of my numerology community. Also, make sure to check out the comment section and leave a comment on an episode you liked, share thoughts, and even ask questions. It's your opportunity to connect with me directly, and I always attempt to answer all the comments that are written to me. Now, the best way to do that is via Spotify or YouTube. Having said that, let's move on. So now we are about to start treading more sensitive and complex territory as we look at the interaction between Trump's life path and expression numbers. We are now looking at the 22-4 coming together with the 14-5. In many ways, polar opposites. Two diametrically opposing energies pulling him in completely opposite directions. The 4 and 5 in general are disharmonious with each other. That's a great disagreement. There's a great disagreement between those two energies. One aspires to stability and building things, the other to freestyling and a form of inconsistency. This can mean, for example, building something and then sabotaging your own project. It can also mean a great internal struggle within Trump himself, within his own inner world, like an inner battle of sorts. Sometimes, I shall say, even an inner war that rages within. Now, this can increase Trump's inner turmoil and internal struggle. When you have two opposite forces, just imagine pulling you from within into completely opposing directions, right? Like a tug of war. It can be very destabilizing. Now, in the human body method, we know and teach that the 4-5 combo is a source of much inner violence. And so we are now touching on a sensitive topic in Trump's life. He's dealing with much inner violence raging within him. And let's not forget that he has the 4-5 combo twice. Both his life path and expression number, but also his life path and birthday numbers are a 4-5 combo. This is a lot of inner violence. It's a hard reality to deal with. Now, again, this does not mean that a person always acts violently. They certainly have a tendency to do so. It can be, active or passive, but it can certainly be mitigated over time and with experience. Nevertheless, it is part of their personality and a reality they have to deal with. And in Trump's case, it is unfortunately exacerbated by the fact that his 5 is a karmic debt 14-5. This always adds to the edge of the shadow side. On the other hand, since his 4, his number 4 is a 22-4, a master number, there's somewhat of an escape route, we can say, an escape route, a way out of this pattern by harnessing the dynamic and powerful energies of the 22-4 with a dynamic and creative 5. This is where much daring action can manifest itself and where big dreams can find creative ways and channels to express themselves. So having said that, we are going even deeper in a sense. As I promised, I'm going to go from the more simpler combos to the more difficult ones. And so now things become even wackier as we look at another powerful number combination in Trump's soul urge and expression numbers, namely a 16-7 with a 14-5, both karmic debts and also a disharmonious combination. But before I say anything further about this particular combo, it's interesting to note that literally all of Trump's numbers are highly individualistic numbers. This is already very revealing and tells us that this is a self-creating persona, a man who walks his own path and who cares very little about what others think of him. It also tells us that he is not good at listening to others or heeding to wise advice unless it serves his path, his interests, and his gut feeling. Many individualistic numbers can make for a very unique and revolutionary individual who thinks out of the box and is willing to shake the status quo. But they can also make for a person who doesn't respect the rules and crosses many boundaries, even if those boundaries are meant to protect him, his loved ones, or in general, others. Now let's come back to the Solarge and expression numbers 16.7 and 14.5 respectively. In the human body method, we say that when these two numbers come together, one major characteristic of personality you will see is unpredictability. This can be for better or worse, and no one can really tell. After all, that's the nature of unpredictability. You just can't tell whether it's going to be amazing or devastating or just anything in between. Let's not forget that, there are also both karmic debts. You see, that's a little bit the Achilles heel here. So this exacerbates the whole thing and does give somewhat of an indication that it can tend more to the shadow side and imbalanced side of things in Trump's case. Now, another very important characteristic we speak of in the human body method when we learn about these two, numbers coming together is psychological instability. It's another dimension of unpredictability. So it tells me that Donald Trump has a messy inner world, a turbulent and confused inner world. Sometimes I would even bet that he himself, doesn't know why certain impulses are just moving in him and sort of, you know, pushing him in particular ways. Now, on the flip side, right, this can sometimes lead to sudden emergence of brilliant insights. That's again, right, the other side of unpredictability. Brilliant insights. Again, we see a very unstable, chaotic, and unpredictable inner psychology. It can be completely messed up one moment, and the second moment suddenly come up with a great idea. So I hope that by now you are starting to sense into Trump's deeper inner world based on the numbers. One thing we can see for sure, he is a complex persona. And I'm saying this after having seen numerous charts throughout my career. Now, one last thing I want to mention about the 5-7 combo is that sometimes they can also be completely reckless and violent and, in a sense, just go rogue. And again, just like the 4-5, here too, Trump has this dissonant combo appearing twice in his chart, both between Solarge and expression number and between his personality number and expression number. Again, I just want you to get all these different perspectives, okay? So this again sort of amplifies this whole phenomenon of the 5-7 we just spoke of. So by now, we can see that Trump is a very interesting case for us numerology lovers. There's just so much complexity in his chart, so much potential and so much conflict. And since his chart is marked by so many disharmonious number combinations, we can certainly tell that his life is marked by deep trauma, conscious or unconscious, and deep conflict as well. Now, he is 78, and hopefully by this age, he has worked out quite a bit of his imbalances, right? Or learned how to work through them or with them. But I can tell you again, as a numerologist, working with people of all ages, that such degrees of disharmony, you can 100% refine them to a very high extent, but they never go away completely. And so that tells us that he is a man living to a certain extent in constant inner turmoil and conflict. There is some degree of constant instability in his personality. It's important to note that even though this indeed contributes to expressing the shadow side of his numbers, it doesn't equate with quote unquote bad. Okay. If people try to sort of like put this on some kind of moral scale, it's bad or good, forget about that. This is completely not part of the conversation. It simply requires more effort to find internal and external solutions for oneself. That's for sure. It requires much inner work and refinement so as to not be destructive to self and others. But it can always turn into a force of benefit given one does sufficient and the necessary inner work. So, having said all the above, we learned that Trump is a very unique and complex persona. Versatile, capable, grounded, unpredictable, violent, brilliant, psychologically unstable, very inspired, and I could go on and on. You see how many contradictions? It's just fascinating what an interesting combination of traits we have here, all condensed into one person. We can all we can certainly all agree that he ain't boring, right? So this we can definitely agree on. He is indeed a one of a kind personality, and you just don't come across such a chart every other day. It's an extreme chart in many ways. And I'm saying this after giving, again, hundreds and hundreds of readings and seeing so many charts, right? It's a combination of many contradictory elements trying to work together. It's not an easy chart, that's for sure. And I'm sure that if we got the chance to know Donald Trump privately and have an intimate talk with an open heart, behind closed doors, he would say the same. But then again, some of the most complicated and contradictory charts I've seen are of wonderful people. So I'm saying this so we again do not equate disharmony with bad. Let's not, tag it with some kind of moral value, because that will be simply wrong. It's just not what it is necessarily. I know people with extremely complex and charts with many disharmonious locations that made themselves into amazing people with many beautiful achievements. Again, it's all about, right, our level of consciousness and what we do with the material that we have. There's always also a balance between fate and free will, conditions that we are given, namely the numbers, the structure, right, and what we do with these conditions. Now, with Trump, it's fascinating to see the mixture, pardon me, the mixture of highly stable energy, 22, 4, and 7 number combination, and the highly unstable energy, the 4, 5, and the 5, 7 combos. Strong, clear opinions on the one hand, yet reckless on the other. Serious on the one hand, yet unpredictable on the other. Big dreams on the one hand, yet psychologically unstable. Psychological instability on the other. So all of these opposites dancing in one person under one umbrella. So finally, I want to say that I hope this numerology analysis helped you to see how numerology works and possibly sparked your interest to go even deeper and explore this tremendous science and art and method. And also, I definitely want to say that there's so much more that we could talk about. It's just infinite, right? We can approach a chart from so many different directions and analyze it and analyze it and analyze it, and right, and many different um, sections we can say of the numerology chart. I haven't even mentioned. Forget it. It's just far too big for an episode. But I did focus on the biggest things that compose who Donald Trump is. Having said that, I really want to wish Donald Trump the best of luck and success with his upcoming new presidency. May he succeed in making not only America great, but also the rest of the world. And I send him my blessings. And before we wrap this up, if you have enjoyed this podcast and you want to keep learning high quality numerology, make sure to click the follow or subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell on the platform you're listening from and become part of my numerology community. Remember also to check out the comment sections, leave a comment, leave a question, share your thoughts. It's an opportunity to connect with me. And as I said, I will attempt to answer all your comments. The best way to do so is via Spotify or YouTube. And don't forget to check out my professional numerology readings, where you can really get to know yourself on a level that is phenomenal. And last but not least, if you want to master numerology on a deeper level, check out my self-study numerology course. And last but not least, my in-depth numerology certification studies. My friends, what an episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it inspires you. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. So, again, I send you my wishes, my best wishes. And as always, I'll see you in the next episodes. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, and you want to go deeper into numerology, check out my website, tom-eckert.com. You can also book a numerology reading or even study numerology yourself through my courses. I'll see you in the next episode.